Good morning and welcome back to Sunday Storytime here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we are continuing our read-through of Star Wars Scoundrel's Luck, a solitaire adventure starring Han Solo. Now, if this is your first time here, I will have a link down in the description where you can go back to episode 1 and follow along the story, because this is a choose-your-own-adventure style game where you, the viewers, will get to make the decisions as far as the choices that are made and what's going to happen with our heroes. So, before we get into it, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell. That way, when a new episode comes out, you will get notified. And also, I do try to put out a few different videos covering all sorts of tabletop gaming content during the week, whether it's board games, miniatures, card games, role-playing, anything in between. I'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. All right, now with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get to our story. All right, so when we ended last time, there was the option where Han Solo could fire himself at the approaching stormtroopers, or if he could hold his fire and let one of the deserting stormtroopers take the first shot. And based on your votes, Han has decided to hold his fire, so let's see what happens. Han eases off the blaster trigger. He does not have a clear shot at the trooper carrying the communications pack. It will be wiser to let someone who does take the shot. Nothing happens. The officer begins speaking into the radio, and still, Sodara's men do not attack. Han aims and squeezes the trigger, realizing that he is already too late to prevent the squad from reporting the Falcon's location. Two blue bolts streak from Han's blaster rifle and burn holes in the armor of the officer's assistant. Already reaching for his blaster pistol, the officer drops to cover, even as his assailant collapses. Chewbacca triggers his bowcaster, and the point guard falls. A moment later, the officer returns Han's attack. The bolt ricochets off the freighter's hull, then grazes Han's shoulder. He grunts as it opens a long, burning gash. Chewbacca fires. The bowcaster's slug strikes the snow next to the officer's torso and explodes, shredding armor and flesh. It is the snowtrooper's turn to yell in pain. In the next instant, Imperial blaster bolts rain down around the cave mouth. Chewbacca bellows, and the smell of singed fur fills their shelter. Han returns fire blindly, still too stunned from his own wound to aim. It quickly grows apparent that the two smugglers are no match for the squad's heavy salvo. They withdraw further beneath the Falcon. Han and Chewie now must rely upon Sodara and his deserters to save their lives. That help is a long time coming. The spacers huddle beneath the Falcon as energy bolts zing off the ship's hull and fizzle into the walls of their tiny ice cave. Through the mouth, Han sees snowtrooper feet running toward them. He continues to fire his blaster, but the opening is too narrow to hit anything. "Where's Sodara?" Han asks. He should have clobbered them by now. "Yorg, if he sold us out, I don't think you'll have a chance." Several blaster bolts lace across the cave mouth from opposite directions, forming a grid of death just a meter from Han's nose. A snowtrooper's armor passes in front of the cave entrance, and Han fires. The shot strikes the snowtrooper just below the knees. The armor shatters, and the trooper rolls away, screaming in agony and terror. Two more snowtroopers drop in front of the cave, their blaster rifles level, and prepare to fire. Han continues to fire, but he does not see his targets. He is blind with anger and frustration. That Sodara sold them out, he has no doubt. To his surprise, both he and Chewbacca are still living a moment later. The Imperials lie crumpled in front of the cave. Smoke rises from a hole in the back of each man's armor. Sodara gives an order, then turns back to Han. "We waited too long to fire," he says, his face betraying no emotion. "I am sorry. Perhaps your injuries could have been avoided." "Maybe," Han replies, "but how did we do?" "They sent a message," Sodara said. Han can tell he wants to add, "as I said they would." But the radio is still intact. As Han and Chewie attend each other's wounds, Han and Sodara discuss their situation. Without doubt, the squad has reported contact with the deserters. Because the Falcon is buried in the glacier, they might avoid a detection from the air for a day or two. But the command center will certainly dispatch more patrols, probably with walkers when they hear nothing from the first squad. "Do you have someone that can operate their communications pack?" Han asks. "Of course," Sodara responds. "Why?" Han explains his plan. Sodara agrees it is worth a try and orders Lieutenant Birdlow to learn what he can about the enemy communications protocol. A few minutes later, Han goes outside, where Sidara's crew has set up the communications pack. Birdlow, indistinguishable from Sidara's other troopers inside his white armor, briefs Han on what he has learned. When Han asks what his name is supposed to be, Birdlow's helmet stares at Han for a long moment. If the helmet could look sheepish, Han is sure it would. I forgot to ask, he admits. Han shrugs. So ask now. That's impossible, Birdlow says. The prisoners are dead. Dead? What happened? Birdlow seems puzzled by the question. We shot them, of course. Han's jaw drops. Shot them? That's cold-blooded murder. They were only traitors, the lieutenant responds defensively. Han's eye narrows. I thought you guys were the traitors. Birdlow's voice tone does not change. We are deserters, if that is what you mean. Han shoots a glance at Sidara. The captain shakes his head gently. Old habits die hard. Shall we say he meant traitors to sentient freedom? Han hesitates. I guess so, he finally responds. Birdlow activates the field communication set. Green Squad reporting, Han says in the comm phone. They have purposely deactivated the video transmitter on their end. An Imperial Colonel's face appears on the screen. Report, Green Squad, and adjust your video. I'm not receiving a picture. Han gulps. What if the Colonel knows the squad leader by name? Video transmitter malfunctioning due to combat damage, sir. Engagement concluded successfully. Contact subjects were 2 smugglers. No sign of primary search subjects. Recommend continuation of normal search patterns. The Colonel's face tightens in frustration. I thought we had them, he says. I'll send a skimmer to collect the prisoners for further interrogation. Negative, Han says. No prisoners. I ordered you to take prisoners, the commander bellows. We did, Han blurts out. They tried to escape. The Colonel looks angry. I will expect verification on that. Casualty status? Han hesitates. How much did the officer report before he fell? Will the Colonel believe that nobody was injured in the battle? Han knows that if he reports casualties, he has to report fatalities to avoid a medical evacuation. But will the Colonel send a skimmer to pick up the dead? If Han claims there are no casualties, that's our first choice. Alternatively, is Han going to report that there were fatalities or casualties? So, that's up to you, the viewer. Make sure you comment down below. Let me know which decision you'd like me to take. Report casualties or no casualties. And to come back next week for the next installment of Star Wars Scoundrel's Luck, a solitaire adventure starring Han Solo. Also, don't forget, folks, down below there is links to our social media on Facebook and Twitter. And if you pick up your role-playing games in PDF form, there is also a link to DriveThruRPG. It does give a little bit back to the channel without having to, contribute anything extra on your part. And I would appreciate if you used it. So, with that out of the way, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.